Put the needle on the record.
Brunson stops on a dime, launches. Oh yeah! Jalen Brunson buries it.
They give it to B. All right, here it is. Bernard looking for 50, and he's got it. Back-to-back 50-point games for Bernard King.
Now has Starks for Ewing. Ewing with the spin. Ewing, yes!
1 seconds remaining. The Knicks lead by 1. As Knicks fans still revel in the euphoria of that big championship win. This is Tim. This is New York Knicks Unleashed, bringing you the best and everything New York Knicks related. Oh, the big parade is Thursday, which is mañana. We have the draft on Tuesday, but you know what? We still need to revel in the win. We need to still just be like, you know what? 53 fucking years. And I know I'm not beating the dead horse. I'm not beating the drum on this. I'm not beating anything on this.
That's what she said.
But I am going to say this as a fan, 35 plus years, if not more. I never thought in my lifetime, and we've talked about this, that I would see this title, that I would see this win. We were so close to the precipice, but we always seemed to just get knocked off the mountain. Humpty Dumpty always fell off the wall. Charles Smith always missed twice under the basket. You had the 4-1 sweep, of course, in 99. Oh, and you also had the pain of last year under Tom Thibodeau and the injuries. But this is a new era. This is a new team. This is a new franchise. This is a new blueprint. We heard for years, you need the big three. You got to go back to 2010 when we had the big three, which came together, of course, LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh. But people seem to forget that big three did not win a championship that first year. They keep forgetting that. They reached 4 consecutive NBA finals and they were 2 for 2 because they were a team that was built out of pieces from other parts and other places. This Knicks team, this Knicks franchise was built kind of the same way, but built with a continuity, built with a blueprint that if you take a look at the big three, I don't think this blueprint can ever be recreated. Where are you going to find 3 guys who are so close together in Josh Hart, Bridges, and Brunson, who played in college together, who won a national championship in college together? They have that symbiotic relationship. They are able, they know where each other's going to be on the court because they've been basically playing with each other, not since birth, but for years going back to the Nova Knicks. Then you go out and you take a look at Karl Anthony Towns. I laugh at that Karl Anthony Towns draft because if you go back to it, that was the Kristaps Porzingis draft. And it was so weird when you check it out because Karl Anthony Towns was the gem of that draft. No doubt in my mind. But if you take a look at the players that went in that first round, I remember when the Knicks fans were deciding over D'Angelo Russell and Jameel Okafor, and we ended up with Kristaps Porzingis. Remember when Emmanuel Moody was actually a Knick after he was taken 7th overall in that draft? You also had the likes, of course, going on a little bit later, and the likes of Devin Booker. But that was not the earth-shattering draft as some have made it out to be. The prize possession was Karl Anthony Towns. Karl Anthony Towns now 11 years in the league, over 16,000 points, over 8,000 rebounds, over 2. This is the other thing that gets me, over 2,263 assists. D'Angelo Russell, who is a point guard who has also played in 11 years, has 3,690 assists. What are you seeing there? But when you brought in the likes of Karl Anthony Towns, he went through the trials and tribulations. He went through the ups and the downs. You had him at one point in time trying to be a focal point in the offense. And then you kind of figured out, listen, you know what? We need him as a facilitator. We need him at the top of the key. We need him to run. At times you need to run the offense through him, not towards him. And then, of course, there's OG Anunoby, the $200 million wing that certain segment of Knicks fans clamored that how could you pay this guy fucking $200 million when you're only paying Brunson 100 plus? You take a look at the way this starting five is built, and interesting enough, contractually they're all together through next year. Karl Anthony Towns has a player option of $61 million in 28. So we have one more. I should say 27. So we have one more season with these guys to get truly together. You're going to have to end up paying Brunson. Because Brunson, like I said, Brunson is the ultimate team player for the Knicks. What'd you do? I was going to take... People extolled the virtues of Carmelo Anthony for taking a few million less, when in some regards, potentially, Brunson took $90 million less. It's the team that is... There's this starting five. There is no selfishness in the starting five. That's why this will never be recreated. Where are you going to find three defensive wings who know their roles, who can play 3 and D? Where are you going to find a center who can dominate a game when necessary, but still be the facilitator at the top of the basket? And when are you going to find a 1A guard of Brunson's stature who can do the things that he does? You can't. This cannot be recreated. I have to laugh, though, because everyone thinks that... in Miami, they called them the Heatles. That was back in 2010. I just laugh because everyone thinks, well, that was the advent of the big three. Now, the Knicks at one point in time had their own big three, of course, with Tyson Chandler, Carmelo Anthony, and Amari Stoudemire at a plus 54 wins, but we all know what the success was in the playoffs. But they always say the super team was invented in 2010. Well, technically, it was invented in 2007. People forget the Boston Celtics with Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, and Ray Allen. Danny Ainge traded multiple assets to Seattle for Ray Allen, which convinced Kevin Garnett to waive his no trade and leave Minnesota for Boston. Yeah, they only had one championship in 2008, but they did make 2 series finals. If you go back even a little further, you had Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, and Manu Ginobili. 4-time NBA champion. You go back a little bit further to the three-peat. The second three-peat with Jordan, Pippen, and Rodman. Now, some people will say, well, you had Michael Jordan. Well, hell yeah, you fuck right. People forget this also was defined in the 80s. We had the trio of Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and James Worthy. I know people talk about how free agency was different then, and it was easier to keep super teams together. But you always have to find 3 stars that are willing to play together, and you also have to find those pre-stars that are willing to sacrifice. I think that to points in time, the ultimate sacrifice for the original true blueprint of the big three, you got to go back to 81. You got to go back to Bird, McHale, and Parrish. Bird was drafted in 78. In 80, what did he do? He got the... what did he do? It was 80. Oh, yeah, he traded for Parrish in 80 and used the draft pick on McHale. Actually, acquired for Parrish in 80. The group basically defined an era. They won NBA championships in 81, 84, and 86, and made 5 final appearances. So here's another example of LeBron not being the GOAT. Fuck you, LeBron. The true GOAT was the three-peat, but the original blueprint for the traditional, organically grown, we'll call it, team leading up to this Knicks team was the Boston Celtics. The big question is going to be, can we keep the core nucleus together? Tom Thibodeau at times did us a disservice last year. It was his inability to experiment. It was his inability to use the bench. And then he would use the bench at the most inopportune times. I've talked about it before. Tom Thibodeau had cataracts the first 82 games of the season and most of the playoffs, where he would look down the bench and go, I can't see anything past the top 6 guys. Then all of a sudden he must have had LASIK in that one series, which we're not going to talk about, where all of a sudden he looked down at the bottom of the bench and said, oh shit, there's 7 more guys down there. I should play them. Well, that didn't work out well. Mike Brown was the ultimate adjuster. We've talked about how at one point in time during the Knicks the historic 29-point comeback, he had Brunson and Jose Alvarado in the backcourt together. He had not played that dynamic duo in the backcourt together the entire season. And what happens? Boom, he puts him in. You see how that facilitated into a 29-point comeback. That's why there's no blueprint for this team. NBA, like the NFL and Major League Baseball, is always a copycat league. You're going to sit there and say, you know what we need to do? We need to follow the blueprint of the Knicks. It's not followable. You're going to have to go back into college, find 3 guys to play together. Maybe the Fab Five in their late 50s, maybe they're available. You're going to have to find athletic 3-and-D guys. You're going to have to find a non-traditional star in OG Anunoby. Now, OG Anunoby's not a star, but I think he's just below that level. But you're going to have to find a non-traditional player who does everything well but nothing great, who at times can turn on the Jets and be that person that can carry the team. And that's the thing. It's the same thing with Hart. It's the same thing with Bridges. It's the same thing with Karl-Anthony Towns. These are 3 guys or 4 guys that at any point in time can carry the Knicks for a spurt in a game or for a few games in a row, if not more than that. You're going to have to find that. You're going to have to find a team that cohesively gels together like they did, who I always, you got to harken back to the 86 Mets a little bit. The 86 Mets, of course, were a one-hit wonder. They should have had that. I'm not going to talk about 88, but they were a team that even though they had their differences, they came together on the field. The problem is not even the problem. The thing is that this 2006 Knicks team is they came together on the court. They came together off the court. And it's a blueprint that will never be matched. We got the big parade on Thursday down the Canyon of Heroes, so make sure you stay tuned for that. We're going to try to get our asses out there. We just got to try to figure out some things logistically. We're going to be trying to do at least 2 pods a week. We have the draft coming up on Tuesday, so we're going to do a draft preview probably on Friday, the day after the Canyon of the Heroes. So again, this is Tim. Make sure you like. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you set your notifications to all. Make sure you if you're following us on the podcast format, make sure you leave us just a nice comment or give us a 5-star review. It helps the channel out. It's been a lot of fun doing it this year, and this is Tim. This is New York Knicks Unleashed, and I'm out of here.